you having fun at home?
Yeah, I really miss the food. I mean, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, South Florida has amazing food, but nothing beats a bacon, egg, and cheese on a breakfast sandwich bagel. It's so good.
What is it about that in particular that just makes things better? And no one does it like the Northeast. Like you just
It's
can't find it anywhere else.
it's the water. It has to do with the pH level in the water. So the pizza and bagels are just like known to be better in the Northeast because of that. Like Pennsylvania or parts of Pennsylvania, Jersey, and New York.
Yeah.
Well, New York City, Long Island.
Because I mean, we've lived so many places and it just like even if you find a bagel place, like they just don't do it the same,
It doesn't
you
taste
know?
the same. Yeah, no, for
It
sure.
doesn't
So
taste
I've
the
had
same.
about four since I've been here in the last week and a half. So
My God.
it's been good.
Ca-
It's been
You're
absolutely
you're carbo loading.
yeah. I'm building up all the because I don't eat when I'm stressed. So the last like month and a half, I really lost a lot of weight. So now I'm just building it back. It's like a taper. I'm just tapering.
Yeah, I feel like when I see you at meets, like you only have like iced coffee. Like that's all you consume. Because you
Uh
like you said, like you don't eat. You just
well, so because
like
I also have like different athletes that are more skilled in certain events, so or that like stress out about different events. So you saw a
yeah,
conference where, like two girls freak out on 1 meter, and
yeah,
then 3 meter. I had like another set of girls that freaked out, and then tower. So I'm just like they're stressed. I'm also stressed.
yeah.
So I try to make it cool, and the only way I can do that is by like water or like I'll have Gatorade and maybe like a coffee or a noon tablet, which is like the caffeinated tablets.
Oh wow. So tons of caffeine.
Yeah, I tried to. I actually had one of my divers keep me in check for caffeine levels at conference. Like she would just ask me, "How much caffeine have you had today?" So,
Yeah. And
but
you're like,
I'm honest. I was like, "Hey, just yell at me. It's okay." So I try to have like no more than like 3 cups of coffee a day.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, other than that, everything's been good. I
Good.
coached at Texas camp with Matt Scoggin for 2 weeks, right
Nice.
before he went for Paris with Allison. So that was really cool. So yeah, so I just went from Texas camp to here.
Yeah, what was that like?
It was good. I think it's really fun to work those camps, especially one because
Mhm.
I only coach women's college teams, so like I only work with
Yeah.
one gender in a specific area.
Hmm.
So I like that one. I get to work with male athletes as well, and then
Yeah.
also teaching some of the basics again. Like that's really fun. Or like someone learns a front 1.5 on 3 meter, and it's like the coolest dive, and to see their joy is really awesome. So I really get to play with that a little bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and the Texas pool's nice. It's really
it
nice.
is, and I lost the bet with Nat Scoggin the weeks of camp, and I had to do a death drop off 10 meter like the last
Oh
day.
my
So it was
gosh.
fun. Another coach had a bet with him, and he had to do like a running reverse flip, and I was like, I'd rather do the death drop. That's okay.
See, okay, so like I tell my husband, Rich, that he's a
Yeah,
player's coach, you're a diver's coach
yeah,
because you have fun. You get up there, you get in the water, and
yeah,
you chuck yourself off 10 meter. You do a back 2.5 cold. I mean, it's amazing. I don't know
yeah.
how
I
you
did a
do it.
back 1.5, like a couple weeks ago on 1 meter in Fort Lauderdale. It was just really hot, so I was just messing around.
Do you get super sore after that? Like
Yeah, that's
just
why I don't.
random.
That's why I don't do 10 meter that much. I'll just go up and do one or two, and I'm fine. Yeah,
Oh
I
my
also
gosh.
I try to be active. I think that's one of the ways, like for me to like just mentally check out or something. I like shut my phone off and I'll work out like 3 or 4 days a week. And I stretch a lot. I actually have a massage foam roller I got, and I use this every day. So I
Oh
do feel
wow.
better. Yeah.
Okay.
So I tell my athletes to recover. I try to follow suit as well.
Gosh, I mean, I feel like I need one of those. That's
It's
awesome.
the best thing I've ever gotten as a gift, and I stand by that wholeheartedly.
Wow.
Because I think I think recovery is really important, whether you're an athlete or just active. I think it's really important to like stretch. That was something I learned in undergrad, so I try to adhere to it as best I can.
And, as we get older too, when we're working out, it's just good to maintain that, maintain those good habits. of stretching
Yeah.
and things
And
like that.
I could still do a backflip. I try to do one every like once or twice a week. I try to do a couple because I one, it's a cool party trick to show off to my family too. I tell my dabbers all the time, like if I can still do one, there's no reason why you guys can't do one.
I want to talk about a lot of different topics with you because
Sure.
you're a college coach, you're an expert, you're just so talented in so many different areas. But I want to start first with your background
Yeah.
and diving for you. You dove collegiately at Canisius College. What got you into the sport?
Um, so when I was like in like middle school, elementary school, they had like swim lessons at my high school, and then like when you finished all the lessons, you got to like choose diving slash swimming. And it was some dude who looked on YouTube how to do a hurdle. Like it wasn't anything good. But like it got me started. And then I played soccer primarily, so that was kind of like my main sport. And then um I hated indoor soccer. So I was like, I'd rather do like a winter sport and just swim. I'll do cardio, keep my heart rate up. And the high school needed a diver. And I was like, well, I learned a hurdle and I'll just chuck some stuff. It'll be fine. Um, and then I ended up, my high school didn't have a coach. So everything I did, I kind of looked on YouTube how to do it and just tried it. Which is also why I think I have as many injuries as I do. But that's okay. And then, yeah, my junior year of high school, going into the summer, or right before the summer, I had just missed state qualifiers for New York. And everyone was like, oh, my whole team was like, that's really cool. Only if you had a coach, it would have been cooler. And I was like, I know. So my team fundraised for me to go to, before it was Rip Fest, it was, so the summer I went to Indiana Diving Camp with Jeff Huber, which was his last summer at Indiana. Um, and then played soccer in the fall, helped coach the girls team for the high school my senior year. And then the winter during the Christmas break, as a Christmas slash senior gift, my high school team funded for me to go train at Indiana's winter camp before it was their fest. It was like a test run. And that's where I met Ian O'Rourke, who was the coach at Canisius during that time. And my best friend's older brother went to and swam at that school. So he was like, hey, tell the divers there that you know me. And I was like, okay. And I ended up just going up to the Ian and I said, hey, I don't know if you know Jake, but he told me to say, all right. He's like, we're in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. Why on earth do you know that name? And so yeah, long story short, we talked and then he invited me on a trip and I went to school in I went toward it in Buffalo. Downtown Buffalo was really kind of like a smaller version of New York City. So they really sold me on the area. The food was great. The sport environment was awesome. That's something I've always grown up loving, all kinds of sports. And so yeah, I ended up changing. Originally, I verbally committed to play soccer at a Division III state school in New York. And then I told the coach in March, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm not only not coming, I'm also changing sports. And he was really understanding about it. It was honestly, it was actually cheaper for me to go to the other school. And I said it just came down to finances, unfortunately. And he was real understanding. He just kind of said, hey, at least you're not playing soccer anywhere else. So that was kind of cool. And then yeah, drove 4 years at Canisius. And it was awesome. It was really cool. I had two different coaches as well. So I learned a lot as well.
That's amazing. And it's not every day that a coach would get an email like that. Hey, like I'm not only not coming, but I'm switching sports.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It
that
was,
coach is going, hey, you're kind of good at soccer though. Like, are you sure?
yeah. And the school was honestly like a lot of my high school classmates went to either that school or different school. And I wanted to kind of branch out. I knew I would know a bunch of people at the other school. I knew no one at Canisius. And I
Mhm.
said, you know what, let's go explore. Also, Canisius was 8 hours away from my parents' house, so they couldn't surprise me to visit. They had to at least call.
Yeah.
So that was one of the factors as well. But yeah, I loved it. It was great. It was a co-ed team, and it was something that to this day, like I wouldn't be where I'm at without it. So I can't be mad.
It's not every day you see the soccer to diving transition too.
No, that was so my first coach recruited me, and then the week school started, he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go train for the Olympics." So he left, and again, I had just changed not only schools but sports. And so the other coach, Christian Torres, he came in my freshman, sophomore year, broke down a bunch of mechanics. I didn't learn a single new dive my freshman year at all. I think it was just, hey, make me not ugly as a diver, and that was it. Um, but he was really patient with me, and it was kind of nice because we had a conversation of like, hey, I had teammates that transferred from Penn State my sophomore year. So like obviously how he was once coached is going to be very different from how I was once coached because I
Hmm.
did diving for a while. I played soccer.
Yes.
So I think Christian did a really good job, and Ian too, but Ian was a little bit different just because that's all he knew was diving and gymnastics, where Christian, he dove Division 3. He was a national qualifier and finalist on Division 3 at Fredonia. So like he knew how to break down the basics differently. And I think because I had that conversation with him of like, I know I can do the bigger dives, but you need to
Hmm.
coach me differently because I don't know what a branny was. I didn't know
Yeah.
like you got to anchor and like I was like, hey, just tell me how I got to do stuff and we'll be fine. So it was a lot of trial and error and a lot of communication. And I think that's why I think it's really important with my athletes now to communicate because like if everyone's on the same page, it's way easier.
Do you have a favorite memory as a diver that stands out to you, or an interesting story, or maybe something funny from learning a dive?
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
anything.
all of the above. Funny story. I kept posting my smacks on Instagram, and then I posted a good dive, and then everyone's like, "Why didn't you smacks?" So I stopped posting the good dives, and I don't think I have a single video of a good dive I've ever done. So that's, I guess, the funny story. Yeah. To be honest, there's one that really sticks out. It was my freshman year, my first away meet, and I was again making a lot of changes. I thought, and I was really happy with performance of like, hey, I was happy with how I dove. And then
Yeah.
I finally saw the overall score. I was like, yo, I dove like trash. And so I was super upset. I was mad. Again, that soccer, like, hey, aggressive energy coming out of like, I don't want to say temper tantrum, but I was really frustrated. And my coach just screamed at me saying, "What were you happy with how you did before you knew the score?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, so then why does it matter what the score is?" So that was something I thought was really I tried to take away from is like, hey, like, yeah, I might have went long, but did I go long because like I did the right start finally, or is it because I just came out like I didn't know what I was doing? So it made me think a lot more about my diving and like, okay, what I was like focusing on rather than the score base. So because of that, I never looked at my scores ever again. I was like, whatever I get, I get.
Yeah. And our sport's so subjective that sometimes it's
Yeah,
like,
like a 7 in one meet could be a 5 in the other, and it's the same dive. So like, it's again, I think it's more important to be happy with what your effort is rather than the result base. Because I think if you the effort's going to match the result, hopefully. And then yeah, I just the last I guess quick tidbit was I'd always count myself down if I was doing a new dive,
mhm.
and I told myself I have to go on go, otherwise everyone is going to throw their chamois at me, and I told my teammates it's okay. So 10 meter, that was probably the only one I was like, guys, you can unload the chamois after I get down. I don't trust anyone's arm throw. So yeah, but again, they never. I think it happened once, but it was a dive I really should have gone anyway. But I think because of that, it forced me of like, hey, I'm holding myself accountable by telling other people, hey, like if I don't do it, like it's on me, but I want you guys to make me do it.
Yeah, like, hey, don't let me stand up there too long.
Yeah,
Because if you
yeah,
stand up too, yeah,
you think too way too, and I have really bad ADHD. So if I just sit there, my thoughts are gonna just, it's gonna be a train that goes everywhere, and I'm actually not thinking about the dive at that point. So
yeah,
I'd rather just 3, 2, 1, go. And when I did tower, it was the same thing. Like the minute the beat went, I was like, all right, 3, 2, 1, and then it just went.
yeah. Can't think. Just have to go up there, count down, one or two corrections, dive dumb, and go. That's
Yeah,
it.
I tell my divers, be the dumbest diver you can and just
Yes.
don't think. It's way
Yeah.
easier if we don't think. So yeah, it was again, I love my teammates. I'm still best friends with one. I actually just saw one the other day. So it was really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously you were a talented diver, and now you're the head diving coach at Florida International University here in Miami. How did you get into coaching, Josh?
uh, so my plan was med school, or PT school. I was still undecided, but I was studying for the MCATs. So, I ended up double majoring, minoring, and having a concentration all in undergrad. And so I couldn't fit all of that plus a Division I sport with all the prerequisites. So after I graduated, I knew I was taking a gap year to study for the MCATs, get extra hours, clinical hours. And the rival school, Niagara University, opened up. And it was a part-time position. I knew that from the get-go. And I was like, okay, hey, make a little extra money, coach diving. And it's only like, I'm only obligated to do 20 hours a week. I was like, that's super easy. Um, and don't get me wrong, I love going to the doctor's offices to shadow, learning a bunch. Like, I love anatomy, I love science, and I use a lot of that when I coach. But it wasn't something I could see myself doing for 40 plus years. It was something I could see myself doing for 10 to 15, and then I'm just doing it because I have to. And going to Niagara to coach, that didn't feel like work. That was fun. That was something I enjoyed doing. And I went above, like anything above 20 hours was considered volunteering. And I probably volunteered 15 hours a week because I enjoyed it. I wanted to recruit. I wanted to build a good program. And historically, Niagara was good, but not great. And I was like, you know what? I kind of wanted to prove everyone else wrong that, hey, like Niagara could be a good school. It just takes the right fit. So ended up doing that. And then I had to deal with my dad because he was not very thrilled that I was passing up med school. That if I would try and get a full-time coaching job by 26. So I gave basically once I get kicked off my health care system from my parents, I had to have a full-time job. And so, yeah, so I just really worked hard. I asked a lot of questions. Russ Decker at Buffalo, I'm super thankful for him. He let me volunteer coach the club with the Learn to Dives. And then some coaching switches happened. We people moving, got other full-time jobs. And he was like, hey, do you want to coach, like be the head coach of the club? I'll just own it and fill in when you can't go. I was like, yeah, that's cool. So when I was doing Niagara my second year, I got to kind of take over a little bit more with club practices. And then Niagara didn't see the position getting more than full time because they were like, hey, we just don't have the resources, whatever it was. And I said, hey, like, if I know that that's the move then with Niagara, like, I can't stay there because I need to try and get a full time job. So I ended up turning down Niagara for the third year. I just stepped away. I recommended someone I thought would be a good fit from the area. And I just asked Russ Decker, hey, can I like kind of volunteer coach every so often for the college team, just so I'm kind of still in college and I'll just mainly coach clubs. So I think that's where I kind of honed my skills and I learned from Russ, like college wise, what to do. And then club, I got to kind of play with it and experiment a lot more. And then that just kind of led to, hey, the previous grad assistant at West Virginia was my best friend, Chris. And the previous one before him also dove at Buffalo. Chris dove at Buffalo, and then they cut the men's team, and then he transferred to Canisius for our senior year. And then so basically the past three GAs have been from in the Buffalo area. So I got to work with Laura Helder at West Virginia, coach their team, learn from her. And she really trusted me to coach and recruit because I loved recruiting, which I think I'm one of the few college coaches that actually enjoy it. And that's okay. I just like talking to people. So for me, it's fine. So I help with that. And then she would coach like the 3 meters, 5 and 10. I'd coach the 1, 3, and 7, or we'd flip. So she really gave me like half the pool, which was helpful. And if I don't want to say overstep, but it was like, hey, I had a different opinion. She just asked me why I had that opinion. And if it made sense to her, she'd try it. And I think if it didn't, she'd explain why she didn't think so. And that just, again, it was a conversation and helped me grow a lot. So yeah, have to thank Russ and Carla for sure.
Oh, and I'm sure your dad is very proud and reassures you that you made the right decision. I mean, you guys won a conference championship last year. This will be,
yeah,
that was pretty sweet.
yeah,
That
that's
was
pretty
pretty
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, and it was cool. I got hired 5 days after my 26th birthday.
Oh, that is a huge
Yeah, so
detail that matters.
yeah, so I was like, hey dad, like I'm 4 days late, but I got one. So I think that was kind of the proud moment for him, and then obviously everything else. But yeah, conference this year was fun. It was crazy. It was really cool. Some obviously things could have gone better, but in some aspects, but it was a full swim and dive team effort for sure.
I remember you told me that you had the sign on your door
Yeah.
all of last year.
Mhm.
And every day you would be reminded of, okay, let's push for it this year. Let's push for it this year. And
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah. And I think I don't know. One of the I studied psych with a concentration in sports psych. So just having that visual of like, hey, a goal every day. And I know a lot of top athletes, Olympians do it all the time. It's just, hey, if you
Mhm.
get reminded every day. And so I don't think as coaches, at least I don't know many coaches that also think that way as a coach. I think it's all mostly athlete driven. But
Mhm.
like I really hate losing. And again, not just like losing a conference, but like, hey, like we could have dove way better. Like that
Mhm.
winning to me is like, hey, we PR'd, we made a correction. Yeah, obviously getting the championship title is great, but I just thought there was a lot of things that the first year I could have done better as a coach, and I think the athletes could have done better just in handling the situation where it was a new conference. There was a lot on the diving side, at least from what I've heard, was a lot more competitive, and there was
Mhm.
a lot more depth. So I think there was just a lot more adjustments the first year. And going back, obviously it was the same school, so we kind of had a better idea of what to expect. And I also thought I know the coaches in our conference very well. I was friends with a lot of them before coming to FIU. So just knowing the talent of the coaches and what they're able
Mhm.
to do, I was like, all right, we're going full guns blazing, anything we can do. I just didn't want myself or the athletes to have any regrets. I wanted them, hey, if we lost, but we gave it all we got, then I would have been fine with it. But yeah, it definitely stung when it's a 4 day conference meet and you lose by literally like less than 12 points.
Yeah.
So this year was sweet. And again, like I said, it was a full team effort. I thought the swimmers, I think at FIU we did a really good job. Just, hey, you're all an athlete on the team who either happens to swim or happens to dive. And so I think that starts from the staff down. And I think that just really made a huge impact for sure.
And this is year two for you.
I
What
just
did
finished
you,
year two.
yes. So what did you learn and grow from in those 2 years?
Well, first, it was my first season as a head coach. So writing out the entire season plans was something I've done, but it was never fully my athletes except for the club kids. And obviously, club is a little bit different for timeline of scheduling. So I had a rough idea, and I think I did a good job for conference. I think NC like zones, I think I could have done better like resting them.
Mhm.
So I don't think I did enough of that. And so that was something I really tried to like really harp on throughout the whole year of like, hey, like we're recovering. Just knowing their schedules. And I think a lot of the athletes that are on our team are really self-motivated and have high standards for themselves. So I wanted them to like get as much sleep as they could because I know that any other time they're awake, they're doing school or mentally prepping for diving, whatever. So that was something I really tried. And then I also really harped on doing weekly meetings with each athlete and just checking in of, hey, how are you feeling from lift, from practice? Where's our head at with our goals for the season? We'll do video analysis. And so that was something I really tried to harp on throughout the entire season as well this year.
That's awesome. So weekly meetings. Is this
Yeah.
weekly meetings in season or just all
Yep.
year?
Uh, there are times they're in school.
Okay.
So
So,
from pretty much August 26th until at the latest, like NCAA's. And then maybe like the returners will have like an end of the year meeting of like, what's your plan for the summer? Are we staying? Are we going? What meets are we doing? Like stuff like that. But after once an athlete is done with zones or conference, depending on how far they go, they get the 2 weeks off. And then usually
mhm,
right when they get back, well, I'll have a goal meeting with them of like, okay, what are we trying to accomplish this postseason, this summer, setting us up for fall. But
for
from
sure.
August until whatever the last competition is, we're meeting every week for max half. I mean, I shouldn't say max. I have one diver that she'll spend an hour if I give it to her. So I try to tell them a half hour. If it goes a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, it's fine. But it's really just for
Yeah,
them. It's more show, hey, are we on the same page?
for sure. I want to shine the spotlight on Paige Burrell, making
Yeah.
history, competing at Olympic trials for FIU. What did it mean to you to see her on that stage?
The whole year, obviously the whole team did really well, but I think Paige had a lot of injuries coming into FIU, and then obviously just maintaining those or minimizing those injuries. So I have to give a huge shout out to our athletic trainer, Gabe Casanova, because I don't think our entire team would be the team we are without him. He really cares about the athletes, listens to them. So Paige is really self-diligent about, hey, this is what I need to do. So that end was easy. It was really just me communicating with Paige a lot and Gabe a lot. Hey, you know, are we and hey, is our back super tight today? Can we do some backs and gainers, or do I have to minimize it? So it was just trying to keep Paige in the water as long as we could. So yeah, I think just knowing what she had went through personally and just her academic schedule as well. Like she was gone from our first practice is at 7:30 in the morning. So she'd have practice from like 7:30 till 4 or 3:30 plus class time, and then go to a 45-minute drive to the other campus to do class till 9:30 p.m. So like just knowing what she went through, I think that was probably the most amazing proud thing was that like she did it when it was like, hey, like I didn't dive most of the fall my senior year. So I think seeing that to trials was just incredible.
Yeah, it's fun to watch her dive too. She is strong, she's powerful. It's a treat.
And that was something too, I think, just learning from mine, and it was something her and I talked about. Like we did a lot of dives there at trials, which I think helped and hurt us. Helped because I think air awareness going from outdoor to indoor, getting used to the better boards, etc. But I didn't take into account, hey, like she's also was finishing her master's in a 6-week program. So we didn't do as much as I wanted to then. And that's something I owned. And she, we talked about it. It was a good conversation. But I think part of it also just was, hey, like she's a 5th year former gymnast, diving took a beat on her body. So I think just trying to make it through. And I was more proud from her prelims to how she handled going into semis. Prelim, she like had a muscle strain on her first dive. So I think it was just survival mode.
Yeah.
And so we really going into semis, hey, like let's just go do basics. Let's do lead ups. Let's do board work. And with the exception of her 305, she pretty much averaged what she would have normally done based on the year. So I can't, as a coach, I thought she did really well, especially from last trials where there's no fans, there's no cameras in your face to all of that. Like there's no way to really practice it without kind of being in that kind of environment. So yeah, I think she ended one on a really strong dive, but two, I think ending your career 15th at Olympic trials is pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome. She must feel good.
I think she's more excited to just be done with school and give her body a break. But
Yeah.
she told me she's not shutting out diving forever. She's just for sure taking a break.
Yeah, you need a break, but it's hard to get away from diving. You know, you and I both have had trouble getting away from the sport. So I know it's
Yeah,
not easy.
no, for sure. But I think just the work she put in this year, the dives, the effort, like she PR'd on every event except 3 meter. Like she had a great year, regardless of how any meet went, whether it was Olympic trials or a dual meet that we had in September. I think she dove incredibly for sure. And I couldn't be prouder to coach her.
Taking a look at your team this season, what should we expect from FIU diving this year?
So I lost 3 divers. I lost 2 5th years and a senior, but I got in a 5th year transfer from University of Minnesota named Ava Osro. So she's super excited to come. She's actually just finished a cruise out of Fort Lauderdale. So I think she's literally going back to Wisconsin to pack her stuff and then come back to Miami. And then everyone's returning. I have 2 sophomores, one from Arkansas named Christina Keenan, who goes by Chris or Pepe, and then Sid/Sydney Soto, who is from Virginia. She'll be a sophomore as well. And then I have a Canadian, Brooke Megdal, coming in from Windsor, Ontario, who just got 13th on platform at Canadian Nationals. So I'm really excited for her. I know she just actually had her going away FIU party last Saturday. So she's getting ready to come. She leaves in 2 weeks. So very excited. I'm super pumped. I think it's gonna be a fun year. I have one less girl than last year, but everyone who's coming wants to do really well and has like big aspirations for NCAA's. Hopefully 2028 on at least for two of the divers. So I'm excited. It's going to be a fun group.
That's awesome. And Josh, I want to talk about how incredible it is for your divers to be able to train a little bit at the International Swimming Hall of
Yeah.
Fame in Fort Lauderdale. One
Yeah.
of two pools that has a 27-meter in the nation. I mean, what is
Mhm.
that like?
Um, so normally we don't go there. Normally we go to Coral Springs because it's 20 minutes closer. And so our 7 meter and 10 meter, I'm sorry, 7 and 3 meter platform access is only on Coral Springs or Fort Lauderdale. Otherwise, our main practice facility has a 5 and 10. So we can get a lot done. But because Coral Springs was getting remodeled, we went to Fort Lauderdale, and I think it helped the tower divers because they thought that 10 meter didn't look like 10 meter because you have so many higher platforms. But it also helped the springboard divers. So because I was fortunate, one of the high divers, her older sister was my teammate and one of my best friends in college. So I asked her to take all my college divers up to 27 meter. And they didn't, I think one stood like kind of on the edge. Everyone else was like way back. But when they came down to like 10 meter and 3 meter, like, oh, this isn't so bad. So I think that perspective, but also just having good facilities, good boards. If it wasn't for the drive, we'd probably go there for sure once a week. But I'm very thankful for Dave, for Steve LeBou, and just everyone at Fort Lauderdale that let us practice there. I am trying to go there at least in the spring semester as we prep for conference and stuff because it's good boards. They take care of them because of all the USA meets they host. So it gives it a more similar feel to how zones will be, how NCAA's will be, and then if there's any international competitions as well. So I'm gonna play with that a little bit.
Yeah, if I had that pool when I was learning my 10-meter dives, I think I'd have a little bit higher degree of difficulty.
Oh, I would have the crazy. I don't know how like skilled it would be, but I'd have it all like I'd have a high DD list just because I think diving outside, yeah, you gotta deal with Mother Nature, but I think going from outdoors to indoors, while it could be overwhelming at first, I think it makes better divers. Personally,
For
I don't know
sure.
how true that is, but I think just because you go basically from like there's three colors to now you're like have like HD glasses.
Josh, I got to get your take on the Olympics, the
Yeah,
diving that you've seen so far in Paris. What are your
yeah.
thoughts?
I thought I was really like happy for Sarah and Cassidy. Cassidy just because I know the injuries. I don't know either of them personally. I've met Sarah maybe once or twice, Cassidy maybe once. But just hearing, from you, from Laura, from Cynthia Potter, like I just hearing all the things that they've gone through to overcome and achieve that. I think for Cassidy is amazing, but especially Sarah for all the trials she had gone through just to like she looked so locked in at the meet. Like honestly, after the 301, I was like, all right, we're good. They got it. So that was really cool to see. Unfortunately I did not watch men's synchro platform, but my girlfriend's from England, so I did watch the replay. And that was really cool. I think just the China's just way in advance in terms of like consistency, especially with synchro. I think we'll do better individually, at least is what I hope. And then yeah, I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning to watch platform, and that was really cool. There were some wonky takeoffs in the air, but they hit the water at the same time. So like I don't know from a judge perspective how to score that. Like that's got to be kind of hard. But I think it was good. I felt bad for Australia, even though it helped us. I felt bad for Australia on the synchro. Um, but yeah, it's part of the sport, and I think that's even more so for younger future athletes to watch. Of like, hey, like you could be at a big meet and still things unfortunately just don't go your way. And unfortunately, the biggest meet probably their career or one of the biggest meets of their career. Um, but yeah, I think like today, I think Jess and Delaney's fourth dive like just went short, and I think
Mhm.
they did a really good job adjusting for the twister. So like I think for them that was a good bounce back, and I hope Jess is happy with how if this is it, I hope she's happy with how she finished. But
For
yeah,
sure.
she was incredible. So I'm excited. I think it's gonna be really fun. I don't normally like waking up when there's a 4 o'clock often. So this is probably the only time I don't mind doing it.
These early morning start times are they're a challenge, but it's worth it.
Yeah, at least when it's in LA, like it'll be like 9 a.m. our time or like 12 p.m. our time when things start. So it's a little bit more manageable.
Yeah. But no, it's been great and there's still so much more
So much.
too. So
Oh
we've
my
got a
gosh,
lot
yeah.
to look forward to.
And I think, I mean, just knowing Team USA athletes, I think however their performance goes on the first event, if they do a second one, it usually like doesn't make or break them. It usually will either set them up for success or they'll like brush it off and be like, all right, hey, like I know what to fix. So I
For
think for
sure.
joining on platform, I think that's gonna be really helpful going into it. And same thing for Sarah on 3 meter.
Yes. Almost like a dress rehearsal.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, it
Yeah.
kind of felt like how trials went in semi prelims. It was just kind of like a dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I'm excited. It's gonna be fun.
Josh, I could talk to you until the sun goes down, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to take that much of your
No,
time.
no, it's been awesome. I'm happy we got to do this as well.